guys, Laura here. I'm here to do my March reading wrap up. This was not my best reading month. I did read or slash listen to like 8 books, but it wasn't what I hoped to read, and I've read a lot fewer books than I hoped to. I think this is my worst reading month in a while. I just had a lot of stuff going on with student teaching and placements and stuff like that. So it wound up being a little bit of a complicated month, but I did enjoy what I read. As always, I'm still reading Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. And I'm gonna hopefully listen to a couple more books next month, but I'm hopefully gonna get really focused on that, but we'll see. It's probably still gonna take me a while. I'm about halfway through it right now. But the first book that I finished reading in the month of March was Trickster's Choice by Tamora Pierce. This book follows one of this book follows one of Alana's daughters, and it's after all the series. It's like the second to last series that's currently out by Tamora Pierce. And it basically follows Allie's daughter. She goes off on this adventure to get away from her strict and overbearing mother, basically, who's Alana, and she winds up in a very, very difficult situation when she gets kidnapped by pirates. And she winds up being sold as a slave, but winds up being involved in this revolution, and it's a 2-book series. I really did like how Alana and Allie were so different, and I really enjoyed the differences of the characters. But it was full of like political intrigue and drama. I really enjoyed the first book. I thought it was super interesting. She just wasn't my favorite heroine. I think still Kel is probably one of my favorite heroines so far. But it was a very good read, and I gave it like 3.5, 4 stars. And then the next book that I read, which I do have a review of on my channel, is The Wishgranter by C.J. Redwine. This is the second book in the Shadow Queen series, and they're all like companion books, so you don't have to read them all in order, but I do highly recommend it because there are cameos, and I think the book series just makes a lot more sense if you read them in order. But this follows 2 twins, Ari and Thad, and this is a Rumpelstiltskin retelling, basically, and this book follows Thad after he makes a promise or makes a wish to keep his sister safe, but the only way Rumpelstiltskin will do that is if he vows to become king. And at the heart of the story is that sister Ari, and she's determined to not only save her brother's life, but also to save her kingdom. And it is a superb book. I really enjoyed it. The world building is spectacular, and C.J. Redwine really has a way of crafting not only worlds, but also like characters. And I loved Ari. I loved that. I love the romance that developed. And it was like a sucker punch, a lot of the book. There was like some unexpected twist that you just did not see coming. And I really, really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. It was probably one of my favorite books that I read this month. My favorite fantasy book that I read this month. But I really, really enjoyed it. And if you haven't read Shadow Queen or Wishgranter, I highly recommend that you check it out because it is spectacular. And then the next book I read is also an arc that I got from Comic-Con, where I got that one. These came from Epic Reads. The next one was Hunted by Megan Spooner. And this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I gave this book 3 stars. I enjoyed it, but it just wasn't my favorite. I think it was a little bit hard to connect to the characters in the story, and they weren't as well drawn as I'm used to from Megan Spooner, because she crafts such beautiful characters, and I'll get to that a little bit later. But it just wasn't as... I wasn't as connected to the characters. The one thing I did like about the story is that it really took the character of Gaston, the Gaston-like character, in a very, very unique direction, and it had a lot of twists and turns after the fact. Like at the ending of this story is very, very different from the way that Beauty and the Beast ends, which I really, really enjoyed and I really, really appreciated. But I gave it 3 stars, so if you are looking to read it, I would maybe say like rent it from the library or something to see if you like it, because so far it is a standalone, and I don't know if she's going to do more fairy tale retellings in the same vein, but I give it 3 stars. I would say borrow it, because as different as the story was, I thought the characters were not as complex as I wanted them to be. And then I finished listening to Hidden Figures, which is the book that is based on the highly anticipated movie that just came out starring Octavia Spencer. And I finished listening to that as an audiobook. I really loved the movie, and this was just such a unique telling about how African American women, but also just African Americans in general, really helped us get to space. And I love untold stories, and I think that when you see the movie, I think just to see the history behind it was super, super fascinating. And I think that we as a society really need to realize that we we are such a diverse society and we really need to respect that. And I think that that is some things that don't always get the respect that they deserve. But if you really want an interesting look at the space race from the African American perspective, I would really highly recommend you read it. And I also highly, highly recommend the movie. I think the acting is superb, and it was probably one of my favorite movies this year. One of my favorite historical fiction movies, because I thought it was really, really spectacular. And I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was a really, really good listen. I would have loved if Octavia Spencer read me the book, but overall, it was a really, really good read. And the next book that I read was probably one of my favorite contemporaries that I read this month, which is A Long Way Home by Katie McGarry. And this is the 3rd book in the Thunder Road series, and it follows Chevy and Violet. If you guys have been following me for a while, you know that I love romances that are like rekindled romances, which is basically what this is. But I love this book. I gave it 5 stars. It was a great, great story. And not only really was a great romance between Chevy and Violet, but it also had some spectacular tiebacks to her Pushing the Limit series, which I adore. I think Pushing the Limits is probably one of my favorite contemporary series that I've read recently. But it also, you know, reflected on Razor and Brenner and Oz and Emily. And I just liked how these characters really took Katie McGarry took these characters in such a different direction than Oz, and she really took Chevy in such a different direction than she took Oz and Razor. And I thought that was super, super interesting, and I really, really loved how the fact of found family and who is your family is super important, and especially in regards to a motorcycle club, I thought it was really, really unique. But I really, really grew to adore Chevy and Violet, and I really, really love this book, and I thought that it was such a fast-paced read. If you have not read anything by Katie McGarry, I highly recommend that you read the Pushing the Limits series, but if you want something a little bit different, to has a little bit more intensity, I recommend you read Long Way Home, but start with Nowhere to Run, or Nowhere, oh sorry, it's Nowhere But Here, Katie McGarry, and then it's Walk the Edge, and then it's Long Way Home. But I really, really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars, and it was spectacular. I don't think my friend actually watches these videos, but he loaned me this book, The Dark Materials, and he told me I had to read Golden Compass, so I did. And I think I read Golden Compass when I was super, super little, but it was nice to get a refresher course. And I know that the TV show on the BBC is coming out in a couple of months, and also The Book of Dust is coming out in October, which is the sequel. So hopefully this summer I'll be able to finish reading The Subtle Knife and The Amber Spyglass. I don't know if he's going to give me any more deadlines. We will see. But overall, I really liked it. I gave it 3 stars. And that's technically a reread for me. And the next book I finished... Oh, no. The last book I finished... The next book I read in the month of March was Joanna Sfuca, the Banana Cream Pie Murder. This is one of the Hannah Swanson series. I think this is book 22 in the series. But you know what? I say this every single time I read these. These are like a good pair of jeans. It's just a fun mystery. And I really didn't see the murderer. I couldn't predict the murderer. But the ending was super, super unique and super, super different. And I totally knew something was going on, but I couldn't put my finger on it. So I heard rumors that this was the last book in the series. It better not be, because I need to know what happens. So Joanne Fuca, if you happen to stumble across this video, please tell me that there is a 23rd book in this series, because I have to know what happens to Hannah. But overall, I really, really enjoyed it. I gave it 3 stars, and it was just fun being back in this world. And then I started physically reading Trickster's Queen by Tamora Pierce, but I was having such a hard time reading. I think because I couldn't really sit and read it. So about 100 pages in, I just bought the audiobook on Audible and started reading it that way. And I finished it this morning, and I really, really liked the conclusion. I thought it was super fast-paced once I was listening to it. And Allie went in a bunch of different directions. And next month I'll be starting the last series in this, in her world currently, and that's called the Becca series. But overall, I really enjoyed the stuff that I love this month. Let me know what was your favorite book that you guys read in the month of March. I think my favorite book, my favorite contemporary was Long Way Home by Katie McGarry, and my favorite fantasy was Wishgranter. But check out my April TBR. I want to talk about what I'm going to read in April. But I hope you guys are having a great day, and I'll talk to you guys later.